Hello and welcome to the Virtual Cheese Awards 2020, showcasing the best of British cheese. I'm Kerry Love and I'll be looking after this session along with two very experienced judges. For myself, I have a long association with the dairy industry from spending most of my working life in flexible packaging. Cheese and dairy has long been a major passion of mine, so I'm delighted to be part of these awards today. Today we are judging the cheese classes, and this class to be judged is Best Stilton, and we have 5 entries and is sponsored by FOSS, who provide analytical solutions for the food industry, and we're very grateful for their support. The cheese with the most points is the winner and will go forward to the best of category stage, which will be held on Saturday. The 2 judges will now introduce themselves, explain the scoring system, and then carry out the judging. So I'll hand over first to Richard Newell.
Yes, good morning everyone. As Kerry said, I'm Richard Newell. Been in the dairy industry a very long time, approaching 40 years. And I have to say I'm quite pleased that we're judging the Blue Stilton class, because Blue Stilton is my speciality. I've worked for 3 different manufacturers as a cheesemaker right up to manager. So back to basics for me, and really excited and looking forward to it. So I'll hand you over to my colleague.
Good morning everybody, my name's Sally Young. I've worked in the dairy industry now for around about 30 years, and predominantly in cheese making and cheese manufacturing. I've got quite a wide experience of British cheeses and territorial cheeses from the UK, and also quite a wide experience of continental cheeses as well. So back to Richard, who's going to explain our scoring system and how we're going to award merits to the cheeses today.
Okay, so you won't actually hear us sort of doing an auction on scores, but I'd like to let you all know that the scoring is very rigorous. It's very easy when you're eating lots of samples of cheese to just to sort of forget the attributes. So we'll be scoring out of 10 attributes such as flavour, which of course is the primary one, body and texture, aroma, appearance, how true to type the product is as well, because these things are all important, particularly with the premium cheeses that we're looking at today.
Okay, so we'll kick off with the first one then, which is sample 341 in this category.
Let's make a start. So go for it, Sally.
A standard whole Stilton. Okay, some very nice blue veining on there.
And for those viewers who saw us earlier on today judging the soft blue class, with a Stilton we're looking for a clean dry rind, hints of russet always help, and a nice even distribution of bluing right up to the end. And with a Blue Stilton, the piercing needles go in from the outside inwards, so you always tend to get more bluing in the middle. And the sign of a really good Stilton is that the blue is actually evenly spread right through to the crust. It shows a nice openness in curd texture, which allows the blue mold to flower. Shall we try it?
Yeah.
Nice mushroom aroma. Beautiful veining, Sally.
It is beautiful, isn't it? Very eye-catching. I've scored that quite well on appearance because it's to me it's just beautiful. It's quite spicy and peppery, but it's got a nice buttery back note.
It's got a lovely rounded flavour. There's a bit of sweet and a bit of savoury.
Yeah.
Not harsh or metallic, and
Yeah.
a lot of people buy Stilton with the blue very blue and the white curd very white, and that isn't a good thing. You should be eating the Stilton after some time when the blue has broken the curd down, and then you'll start to see, like this example here, that the white part is actually cream.
Yes.
That's a good sign. I really like that.
We were quite spoilt in our last blue class, so I wonder if we're going to be spoilt again in this class. Off to another very good start.
We've started with almost with a winner, haven't we? not that we've pre-decided anything. We haven't looked at these samples yet. Shall we move on to the next sample?
Yeah.
Lots of cling wrap to remove. Bit of a nuisance. Of course, as Kerry mentioned previously on another session, with these the Virtual Cheese Awards, we have relatively small samples, so they tend to be wrapped in cling. What do you think to this one, Sally?
I'm not quite so impressed with the overall presentation. Again, it's a good point to make for the viewers that we would normally be judging these as a half wheel or a whole wheel, and we'd be sort of boring into the cheese in any case. A little bit darker on the rind. Okay, quite a bit of ammonia. But again, quite nice spread of veins. Perhaps not as good as the previous one. A bit of ammonia there for me, but
yeah, there is a hint of ammonia. It's also a little bit firmer in body and texture.
yeah. It's a nice cheese, but I think it's not for me as good as the first one.
I'm thinking when you look at the crust, I'm thinking it's from the same supplier as the first one.
You think so?
And I'm just wondering, many manufacturers will put a standard profile and a mature profile, hoping to appeal to the judges' sensibilities. But for me, the first one beat was the winner of the two so far.
Yeah. It's just not delivering that rounded flavour for me that the first one did.
No, I agree. Have a sip of water from my DuPont mug. Okay, so moving on then. Grab some tissue and wipe my cutting knife. We don't want to cross-contaminate.
What is interesting for me, Richard, is how you think you can pick up from the same supplier by the rind on the cheese.
Yeah, as most of the viewers will know, Stilton can only be made in the 3 counties of Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire or Leicestershire, and there are a few key players, and if you're in the industry now,
yeah,
you start to recognise them now.
Yeah. Certainly, I'm in the middle of that 20-mile radius, so I'm familiar with most of them. Yeah.
And I have to say that I have no connections or vested interests. So,
No.
So moving on to this next 343, again, beautiful blue veining, lovely buttery body and texture. The knife just slipped through it.
Very nice rind on this cheese.
And a sweet aroma, which is quite unusual for Stilton.
I don't have quite so much veining at the rind, perhaps. I'd like to see a little bit more.
You can see where the needles have gone in from the outside. Did you see the brown lines?
Yeah, you can, quite clearly.
Of course, you can imagine when all the needles are coming in from the outside, a bit like bicycle spokes, it's much harder to get, the needles are much further apart at the outside edges. So the opportunity for oxygen to get in is less. So it really shows up a poorer cheese. Better cheese with lovely openness will glue right to the edges. That has such a lovely sweet honeyed flavour.
Yeah, I'm not getting that with this one, I have to say. It wouldn't be a first choice for me.
I think of the two judges, you probably tend to like the stronger, spicier flavours.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think it's that particular sample that you've got?
I don't want to say that the samples are completely different, but I'm actually getting some slightly off notes on here.
That's very interesting. So that says variability.
That's difficult because we're not together. If we were judging together in a tent.
Yeah, we try each other's sample and get aligned.
Yeah.
There's one thing for sure. Of all the grading we've done together, we're quite well aligned on our palettes.
Yes.
But so for us to pick up two distinctly different things says that there's variation between the two samples.
Putting that to one side, this is just a bit flat for me, and it's just not delivering the lovely rounded flavours and the complexity of flavours that I was getting with the first sample.
Okay.
It's not one for me, but.
I think it comes back to what we said in the soft blue class, though. We are quite spoilt. It's still a very fine Stilton when you look at it overall. I can remember the days when there were blue Stiltons out on the market, in the marketplace, which had no blue in them, which is a bit of a. So I think the industry has advanced, certainly over the last 10, 15 years. Shall we move on to sample 344?
Absolutely.
Death by cling wrap.
Cling film has its uses, but it shouldn't be with cheese, should it?
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Instantly looking at this view, as you can see here, sporadic bluing, staining on the outside edge.
Yeah, very much so with this piece as well.
Very, very slightly tired, that sample, and probably wouldn't be, certainly wouldn't be on a photo shoot as what Stilton should look like. But we'll try it in a sec.
It actually tastes better than it looks.
It does. It's hard and firm, so it recovers on flavour, but in terms of presentation, it's not quite there.
Not right at all.
So, Richard and Sally, you made a point about wrapped in cling film. Now, a lot of our viewers, and including me, would, once you've opened your Stilton at home and had a piece, you would normally wrap it in cling film and put it in the fridge. Should we be wrapping it in tin foil or something instead?
Well, I'd wrap mine in tin foil. What would you do, Richard?
It depends how long you're going to keep it for. We all know that cold air is dry air, so refrigerators are poisonous to cheese. They just dry it, and how many times have we taken a piece of cheese from the fridge and it's gone hard and yellow and dry purely because the cold air doesn't hold moisture. So the cling wrap will protect it if you're going to eat it in a day or two. If you're wanting to keep something for quite a long time, you probably wouldn't want to do that. You're probably better off buying it at the right stage from your outlet, because the manufacturers know how to look after it best. So foil for me as well, I think.
Foil, right? Okay, that's a lot of people would be interested because your comment on cling film. So
it just allows sweating to continue.
Yes. Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Even something like a Stilton, Kerry, typically even at this stage now packed, it to be around about the 40 to 42% moisture level.
Yeah.
It still has a lot of water in it. Moving on to the last sample of this Stilton class, 345, has a very, very dark crust. And again, very slightly sporadic bluing. Being critical, but we're judging, and that's what we're here for. You can see here again, there's some staining. And okay, the purists would say, well, it goes with a good Stilton, but you don't have to have that, and it does taste different if you eat that piece.
That's quite distinct actually on that bit.
Quite an earthy aroma.
You see, you wouldn't buy that by choice. It looks a bit grey around the rind, and you simply wouldn't buy it, particularly if there was other pieces to choose from.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Quite like the blue favourite. It's got those sort of peppery notes that I quite like.
I was just going to say, spicy, peppery, that'll tick the box for you. It's on the edge of going ammoniacal though, Sally. It's right up there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it'll be clear in the back of your nose.
Absolutely. Yeah, it hasn't got an awful lot of life left on it, has it, in terms of its eating quality?
No. So I'm just looking now. Would now be a good time, Kerry, to talk through our scores on the doors?
Yes, please. Yes. Yeah.
For me, Sally, the first one we looked at was by far and away the best.
Most definitely.
So, Kerry, sample 341 gets the first prize.
Yep.
And then I actually think it's between the next two samples for me, Sally.
I would go with 342 as my second choice.
Yeah, I think so. 343, I put sweet honeyed flavour, but I think we had some difference in the samples there, didn't
you had different views on that, so yeah.
And I probably wouldn't have awarded that, but the last two samples were really relative.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I'm going to go back and have a look at that third one with the sweet honey flavours, because I wasn't quite getting that, but I'm quite happy with those scores. I think that's an accurate reflection of what we've seen. And that first example,
there's variation within the cheese piece, perhaps eat from a different part of the wedge. Then viewers, you'll not see it, but Sally and I will catch up afterwards and discuss the various attributes. We're anoraks like that.
But I think that certainly the first example we saw was pretty perfect in my book. And,
it really was. It was almost
a really good example.
It was, couldn't fault it in any way, really.
Not really, no.
So just to reiterate, 341, 342 and 343, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, in that order. Strange coincidence.
Yes, yeah. I think once again, certainly the viewers will have learned a lot about blue cheese again. It's always been a mystery to people who are not in the industry. So, and there was only a small number in this category, so it was good to spend time on each one. And unless you got anything more, we'll wrap this one up.
Yeah, no, I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the Virtual Cheese Awards 2020, showcasing the very best of British cheese. I'm Kerry Love, and I will be looking after this session along with two very senior judges. For me, I have a long association with the dairy industry, first from spending most of my working life in flexible packaging, and then cheese and dairy has long been a passion of mine. So I'm very happy and actually honoured to be part of these awards today. Today, we are judging the cheese classes, and the one being judged now is Best Other Blue Hard, with 6 entries, and our sponsor for this class is the Grocery List. So thank you for that. We're very grateful for your support. The cheese with the most points is the winner, and will go forward to the best of category stage. Now the two judges will introduce themselves, explain the scoring system, and carry out the judging. So first up is Sally.
Hello everybody, my name's Sally Young. I've been in the dairy industry for around about 30 years, predominantly in cheese making and in cheese manufacture. I've got quite a wide experience of British cheeses and territorial cheeses from the UK, and also quite a lot of experience on continental cheeses. So I'll just hand you over to Richard for him to introduce himself.
Yes. Are we morning or afternoon now? In any
afternoon.
Event. Good afternoon. Yes.
That's why I said hello.
Just like Sally, I've been in cheese for over 30 years and a lot of experience in cheddar and territorials, as you'd expect, but also my main speciality is blues. So we've just, for those of you who've been watching, we've just done a judging session on Blue Stilton, and now we're going on to other hard blues. Blues are my passion, so really looking forward to this session.
Well, this is the third lot of blues that we've been looking at this morning. And we're going to award our scores for the cheeses as we go through, based on appearance, how we think the cheese looks, the aroma, the flavour of the cheese, the texture, the aftertaste, so the flavours it leaves in our mouth after we've had that initial taste of it, and also whether or not the cheese is true to its character, whether or not it's true to the profile we would expect for this type of cheese. Okay, so we're going to start off with sample 1, 2, 4. Now, Richard, have you got much the same as me? I have a rather mottled.
I've got a cheese here which looks as though it's been starved of oxygen for a while. I wonder if it's been wrapped in cling film for some while.
Yes.
Watch the other blues sessions, of course.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
And yeah, this seems quite patchy. It has a nice rind on it. It's quite even, but seems very devoid of blue. Now, since for viewers, since we're judging this, we don't get to see what type of cheese this is. This is just any hard blue.
Any blue cheese, yeah.
So we can't even say, well, it's typical for whatever, because we don't know what it's supposed to be. Viewers, you'll see me emptying that from my mouth. When you're judging many samples, you can't possibly eat all of it, so don't treat that as anything negative. That said, that cheese isn't particularly what I'd be looking for in a hard blue. It has quite a harsh.
It's very harsh. I'm finding it a part of that flavour and perhaps the texture is quite oily. Maybe that's just the harshness coming through, but it's certainly not delivering what I would say is a good flavour profile for that type of cheese.
It has a very
particularly good start in this category.
Yeah, and apologise to you viewers. We always try to be diplomatic, and it doesn't pay to diss anyone's cheese, but we are here to it's like Strictly Come Dancing. We are here to criticise the product, hopefully constructively, but that for me wasn't nice. Had a very farmy, cowy back note at the end of the cheese, so probably not for me, that one.
No, not me.
Shall we move on to sample 125, Sally?
125. More lovely cling film.
Aha. If I was a gambling man, I would say it's the same supplier as the previous sample.
I think so.
Can you see, viewers, that the blotchiness in the colour of the curd? Where the curd is paler, there's been more lactic acid developed. Lactic acid in cheese making bleaches the colouring out of the milk. And where the blue has worked, the blue steadily neutralises the acid and you get more yellowing. So that's just a sign of some inconsistent bluing rather than a particular fault. Again, a nice rind, cut from a truffle, nice
yeah.
rind, good theatre. Be interested to see what the flavour is like.
I prefer it to the last one, but I still don't think it's not delivering what I would expect.
Now I have a slightly dry mouth feel And again, it's a little bit ammoniacal. It's very easy when you're judging to pick up a negative attribute and then continue a negative run. It's a nicely made cheese, but it just actually doesn't deliver a complex flavour for me. Sally and I have just done several judging sessions, and our palates are quite well aligned, which is encouraging. As you can imagine, if you're at loggerheads with your colleague judge, that wouldn't be good. And I think with this one, we're both pretty well aligned that it's probably not going to be in the Champions League.
Now we have a coloured example.
Thank you.
Right up Richard Street.
So this is sample 126. It's got some better distribution of blue than the previous two samples.
Okay, I'm fighting to get into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Sally or Richard, can we mention again, for the sake of viewers to this video only, that entries were asked to be sent in small pieces, hence they're wrapped
Yes.
in what they wouldn't normally be, maybe.
Yes, we are getting samples of this cheese in just small portions. We would normally, if we were judging face to face, be sampling or boring whole cheeses or half cheeses. So it's not strictly representative of what we would normally do. Okay, so we've got certainly, well, I've got lovely veining one side, but not so clever on the other. So I've got not much that side, but actually it's looking pretty good on that side.
Of course, it depends where you cut as to whether you're between two sets of piercing needles or right on one. Of course, where the air goes in, the blue then flowers. And while you were just explaining earlier, Sally, I just had a try of that, and slightly earthy flavour to it and a very slight bitter note. And as you know from earlier sessions, people rarely say, oh, that's nice and bitter. So probably a little bit more time, that would mellow.
Because it's a little bit more pungent, and I agree, there is a note of bitterness there. It's not going to help, is it? Yeah, I'm getting more bitterness now that as part of the aftertaste, but the initial sort of pungency and the sort of slightly peppery notes I quite like. But yeah.
Okay. Shall we move on to sample 127? Just wipe my knife so we don't confuse samples. So sample 127 wrapped in greaseproof paper. So that's interesting to see what this is going to be like inside. Oh wow! So that's actually cut from within the centre of a cheese. So someone's taken the rind off that. You can see a little bit of pink there, which is yeast often associated with the crust or the rind. So that would tell us that that's the outside edge of the cheese. Well, it's a hard cheese class, and this cheese is certainly hard.
Pretty hard, yeah. Almost a bit brittle.
It's very hard.
Yeah. But sort of a caramel aroma. It's a bit dry for me, I have to say.
Not particularly, diplomacy not being particularly one of my strong points. I really didn't like that cheese.
No.
Hard, dry and bitter for me, Sally.
I think it's certainly past its best. I wonder what it would have been like a couple of weeks ago.
Certainly well made with very well distributed bluing. You know, it's got a good appearance. I'm interested to know why someone's trimmed the crust off it.
Yeah.
That's a strange thing to do. You can see where the flats of a knife have trimmed the crust off. And I've never seen that before. So, but certainly the centre of it, it's getting on, it's aged. And so one man's meat is another man's poison. And as a judge, one has to try to understand what's true to type rather than one's own personal preference. That for me, there'll be a select few who love it, but it's probably quite a polarizing product, Sally.
I would totally agree. Yeah.
Shall we introduce the next sample?
Yes. Just clear up this.
Sample 128, another death by cling film. Let's get that cling film off. And before Kerry says again, these are small samples for these cheese awards, and of course the cheese wouldn't be matured in this. This is just wrap for dispatching to us for us to assess. What do you think of the appearance, Sally?
So mine's just fallen to pieces as I've taken it out. Okay. I've got quite a bit of discoloration under the rind, and I suspect, again, it's difficult when you're just being given a small piece, but a good chunk of my rind is actually missing. Okay, so you're not really getting the overall good picture of that rind. I said I've got quite a bit of discoloration under that rind. It's a very dense, quite a deep rind. And maybe it's supposed to be like that. In terms of the veining, I can quite clearly see where the spikes have gone through. Let's give it a try. A pale and creamy cheese body, that's quite consistent. Some distinct yeasty notes there.
I think this is your turn not to be diplomatic.
Sorry?
I think this is your turn now to lack diplomacy.
Some distinct yeasty notes there for sure. It's almost floury, and I'm getting quite a lot of soapiness.
Yep.
There as well.
Acidic, and I actually put chemical note.
Yeah.
Almost astringent, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
not going to win any awards, unfortunately. That
no,
one did.
Not pleasant in the slightest.
It's strange because earlier on we judged a large class which was soft blue, and we were spoilt. We've never seen so many super cheeses in one class, and we commented on it. And this other hard blue has been the complete opposite so far, with one sample left to go.
He has.
Nicely wrapped in saran.
Saran, yes, which is probably better than cling film, to be perfectly honest.
Very much so.
And nice rind, certainly. Again, a wedge cut from a smaller size cheese.
Again, one can see here where the blue has been acting, the acidity of the curd has reduced, and where the curd is more acid, the colour is whiter and brighter, and you can see that the blue mould actually breaks the amino acids down to ammonia, which is alkaline. That neutralises the acid. hence the more yellow around the blue. Probably, and again, as Sally mentioned earlier, we wouldn't know necessarily whether this is true to what type of cheese it is, because it's an open class. But really, for good bluing, you need more openness of curd structure to allow air gaps for the blue to flower.
Yes,
so I think it tastes different depending on where we eat it.
Yeah, it's very, very dense in places, the blue, isn't it?
I'll take a piece from the middle so I try and get a good cross representation.
Again, I'm getting almost soapy notes there.
I've got one word for it, dry.
It's very dry, isn't it?
Powdery. Well.
I'm wondering if we can ask Kerry just to pause recording so that we can have a chat about the cheeses we've seen.
Yep, okay, no problem. Go.
Well, we've just finished the best of the hard blue cheese class, and I have to say, Sally and I earlier on judged a soft blue cheese class, and we were inundated with fantastic samples. Little bit less inspiring this particular class. We've looked at sort of 6 samples, and Sally and I have had quite a big discussion on which one should win. And really, the jury's out. I think some of the samples, we've certainly tasted some of cheeses in the past that have been a lot better and a lot more inspiring. What do you think, Sally?
Yeah, I would certainly agree, Richard. We've certainly been spoilt to date. I don't feel that any of the 6 samples that we've seen in this class are particularly good and really not representative based on what we know about these type of cheeses. Of what we'd have expected to have seen in this particular category. We've discussed it at great length, and we don't feel that we can actually award a first prize in this particular case. So we have opted for a 3rd prize only, which would be cheese 126. And I think really that the people, I mean, we thank everybody who's entered into this class, but perhaps all the cheesemakers need to go back and have a look at the particular cheeses that they've sent in for this, and perhaps going back to their make sheets and maturation sheets and having a look to see perhaps why these cheeses haven't appealed to the 2 judges. You know, Richard obviously has significant experience with blues. And so far we've been fairly aligned with our palates of how we would judge the cheeses, and we haven't come to any blows at all so far, have we? We've been pretty much in agreement, and we are both in agreement that there is not really a worthy first place in this particular class.
100% agree.
So if you're both finished with your comments, I think we better wrap this one up. With apologies again to the entrants, and we'll move on to the next section. If you're in agreement.
Yes, thank you, Kerry.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.